Hey everyone, this video is going to dive into the idea of the fine-tuned universe and the similarities to concepts in the ancient Indian texts. Ancient Indian texts are referred to as Shastras, which is what we will use. We have released a video previously talking about the Tattvas. If you haven't seen this previous video, you should. The link is right here and in the description. You do need to see that to fully understand what we are discussing in this video.
Ramesh and I are collaborating to bring you a series of videos on similarities between science and the ancient texts.
In the 1950s and 1960s, scientists were learning more about the exact process of the creation of the universe. This led to the concept of the fine-tuned universe, which gradually became widely accepted. And to understand this, let's turn to the brilliant Stephen Hawking. In A Brief History of Time, he wrote that the laws of science contain many fundamental numbers, like the charge of an electron or the mass of a proton. He then says this: the remarkable fact is that the values of these numbers seem to have been very finely adjusted to make possible the development of life. Let's break down what Hawking means by fundamental numbers. Physicists also call them free parameters, and I actually prefer that term. It's a bit more descriptive. Physics has many mathematical laws that can be used to calculate values. For example, F equal to ma. That is, force can be calculated if you know mass and acceleration. Fundamental numbers or free parameters are numbers that cannot be calculated from physical laws. They have to be measured. Here's a simple way to understand free parameters. Imagine you're asked to bake a 1 kg strawberry cake. The core request is fixed. It must be a 1 kg strawberry cake. However, the customer doesn't provide specific instructions on how to bake it. These are your choices, your free parameters. How much sugar will you use? How long will it bake and at what temperature? The values you choose for these parameters will determine whether you create a masterpiece or a disaster. Modern physics has done an incredible job of boiling everything down to a small number of these free parameters, fewer than 50. Once you know their values, you can use the formulas of the Standard Model and general relativity to predict how the entire universe evolves. These free parameters are things like the mass of an electron, the strength of the strong nuclear force, and the ratio of masses of the proton and neutron. Stephen Hawking described the universe as finely adjusted or fine-tuned. For 13.8 billion years, our universe has been forming galaxies, igniting stars, and crucially, fostering at least one planet where life not only emerged but flourished. This would not have been possible if the universe's free parameters had been even slightly different. For instance, a minor increase in the force of gravity would cause stars to burn out in seconds. Altering the abundance of elements like hydrogen, helium, carbon, oxygen, and iron would eliminate planets, chemistry, and ultimately us. The universe resembles a cosmic instrument precisely tuned to the frequency required for life to exist. When measured, these free parameters consistently appear to be not too hot, not too cold, but just right. Let's look at some examples of fine-tuning at the cosmic level. The proton and the neutron are the building blocks of almost everything. They join together to form the heart of every atom. They're basically twins, except for some crucial details. The proton has a positive charge and the neutron has no charge. Also, the neutron is just slightly heavier than the proton. The difference is a minuscule 0.14%. That's like the weight difference between you and you holding a bar of soap. What if the proton was the heavier twin? It would be a disaster. A heavier proton would be unstable, it would decay, and since a hydrogen atom is just a single proton, no more hydrogen. No hydrogen means no fuel for stars. No stars means no light, no heat, and no supernova. Those massive star explosions that synthesize heavier elements like carbon and oxygen. Our universe would be a cold, dark, and lifeless soup of neutrons. That tiny difference is the single most important reason our universe isn't a dark, empty void. In their book, The Grand Design, Stephen Hawking and Leonard Mlodinov used the strength of the strong nuclear force as another example of this fine-tuning. The strength of the strong nuclear force creates a resonance at a specific point that enables something called the triple alpha process. Even a 0.5% alteration in value of this force would result in oxygen and carbon being practically non-existent instead of being abundant. Without this abundant oxygen and carbon, no life as we know would exist. Link in the description for a more detailed explanation of the triple alpha process. The values of the free parameters are dialed in with breathtaking precision. This whole idea of a fine-tuned universe is a huge topic. Seriously, search for it on YouTube. You'll find hundreds of videos explaining it. We'll drop some of our favorites in the description below. Ramesh, do we have something similar to fine-tuning in the Shastras?
Yes, we definitely do. Our first video explained that there were numerous attempts by the Abhimani Devatas to create the universe, experimenting with various configurations. These attempts failed because the chosen configurations could not produce a stable physical universe. They had not used the required fine-tuned parameters. It was only when Narayana infused himself within them, guiding them towards the accurate configuration of these foundational layers, that the correct fine-tuned parameters were employed to construct the stable material universe we inhabit. And it goes even further. In our Shastras, the universe is fundamentally cyclic, constantly repeating between active and inactive states. The transition between these states, the energizing and dissolution, is described in great detail. We will dive into these specifics in future videos. Crucially, the Bhagavata Purana, Mahabharata, and Rig Veda all emphasize that the configuration of our universe is identical across all cycles. So, not only do the Shastras have this concept of a fine-tuned universe, but they also explicitly state that configuration of our current cycle appears repeatedly in every single cycle of the universe. These cycles have been going on for eternity and will continue for eternity.
That's really interesting. Some physicists speculate if different sets of parameters could still result in a life-supporting universe. Maybe a salty strawberry cake instead of a sweet strawberry cake, as our analogy went. But our Shastras take a different view. There's one specific set of parameters and they're used consistently, eternally. Our previous discussions may have led you to believe that the concept of fine-tuning applies exclusively to the grand cosmic scale of the universe. However, it's crucial to understand that fine-tuning extends its influence directly to life here on Earth. How does it manifest in our terrestrial existence? Let's look at some examples. Consider, for instance, the absolute necessity of water for life as we know it. Water possesses remarkable properties that are indispensable for sustaining life on our planet. An example is its unique behavior when freezing. Unlike the vast majority of other liquids, solid ice floats. This seemingly simple characteristic has profound implications. If the ice were denser than liquid water, rivers, lakes, and oceans would freeze solid from the bottom up, obliterating all aquatic life during colder seasons. Instead, the floating ice acts as an insulating layer, protecting the liquid water beneath and allowing marine ecosystems to persist and thrive even in frigid conditions. As usual, links in the description below about the various properties of water which makes Earth habitable. What gives water its amazing life-sustaining qualities? The key lies in the strength of the hydrogen bond, the H bond. This intermolecular force not only accounts for water's unusual freezing behavior, but is also crucial for all of water's remarkable properties to exist. So, how is the precise strength of this crucial H bond determined? Its value is primarily governed by the intrinsic strength of the electromagnetic force and the precise ratio of the electron size to the proton size. Any significant deviation in these free parameters would lead to a vastly different H bond strength, rendering water inhospitable to life and disrupting the delicate balance of biological processes. Moving beyond water, let's consider proteins. Proteins are incredibly sophisticated molecules, known for their ability to fold into highly specific three-dimensional shapes. These precise configurations create active sites designed to bind with particular atoms and other molecules required for almost all biological functions. Furthermore, proteins possess an astonishing dynamic capability, rapidly changing their shape in mere milliseconds to perform their task. An example embodying all these abilities is the sodium-potassium pump. This protein is not just important, it is absolutely essential for all animal life. Without its relentless action, our nervous system would fail, preventing us from thinking, perceiving, or even experiencing consciousness. Moreover, none of our muscles, including the most vital one, our heart, would be able to contract. The list of physiological processes critically dependent on the ceaseless operation of this protein pump is amazing, ranging from nerve impulse transmission and nutrient absorption to maintaining cellular volume and regulating blood pressure. Look for links in the description. But what is the underlying power that enables proteins to execute these intricate and vital functions with such precision and speed? Once again, the answer is the strength of the H bond. The H bond dictates how proteins fold, how they interact with other molecules, and how they change shape, all fundamental to their biological activity. What about evolution? Does the H bond affect that? The strength of the H bond is again critical in the functioning of DNA and RNA. It's strong enough to keep the DNA stable, but weak enough to allow genetic exchange to create sperm and egg cells. So, the specific values of the free parameters electromagnetic force and the electron to proton size ratio do not just affect the large-scale cosmos. They create the not too strong, not too weak H bond that renders Earth habitable and sustains life and allows evolution. Now let's discuss what our Shastras say. There is a confusion about some terms used in the Shastras, and it is one of the reasons that makes it harder to identify the similarities we are discussing in this video. Let us clarify these terms before we start our discussion about what the Shastras say. When I was younger, I went to a talk on what the Shastras say about the world around us. The speaker said, the universe is made of 5 fundamental elements: space, wind, fire, water, and earth. I was completely stumped. How could that possibly relate to the periodic table I was studying with its 100 plus elements? Like most people, I just dismissed it as a symbolic statement, something not really connected to hard science. Ramesh, can you clear up this confusion for us?
The words Akasha, Vayu, Agni, Jala, and Prithvi have different meanings depending on the context. In everyday language, they are exactly what you think: space, air, fire, water, and earth. But in the context of cosmology, the creation of the universe, these words point to something far deeper. The ancient texts call these the Panchabhutas. Think of them as the underlying layers we mentioned in the last video. They are often called the Sukshma Rupa of wind, fire, etc. A precise translation of Sukshma Rupa is a substance that's imperceptible to our normal senses. The fire and water we experience every day, that's the Sthula Rupa, the gross form we can perceive.
This reminds me of something that I saw in another video. A physicist is talking about the universe. If he keeps mentioning fields and you picture wheat fields and corn fields, you'd be totally mystified. Physicists add the word quantum to avoid the confusion. They refer to quantum fields. My mistake with the 5 elements was exactly the same. Sometimes words have 2 meanings. So, to prevent that confusion from now on, we are going to use a special term. We'll call these subtle layers space prime, wind prime, fire prime, water prime, and earth prime. This prime helps us remember we are talking about something different, that we are talking about a primordial form. Wind prime is not the breeze on your face. Wind prime is a fundamental layer of reality. We are finally ready to start a discussion on space prime.
Let's look at the first fundamental layer, or Bhutakasha, which we are calling space prime. This is the first Sukshma Rupa among the Panchabhutas that is created. The creation of all Sukshma Rupas unfolds in 2 distinct stages. The first stage, Tanmatra, signifies the fundamental, unmanifested essence of a Panchabhuta. For Akasha, this fundamental aspect is Shabda. While often loosely translated as sound, in the cosmological context, Shabda is more accurately understood as description, the foundational information or blueprint from which reality emerges. The Shastras define 2 variations of Shabda. Varnatmaka Shabda refers to unchanging descriptions, the properties embedded within space prime. In contrast, Dhvanyatmaka Shabda refers transmitted information. We will consider this in more detail when we explore Vayu or wind prime. And as we have already established, the properties, the free parameters of the universe are eternally chosen to be the same in all cycles of the universe. So, what specific descriptions are contained within the space prime? The Shastras tell us space prime holds the complete blueprint for all physical matter. This encompasses not only the intricate living matter that constitutes our bodies, but also the inert physical matter that forms the world around us. In essence, space prime serves as the repository of the blueprint for all material existence. Space prime also contains the blueprint for prana, the vital life-sustaining processes, jiva, the essence of individual consciousness, and the intricate mechanisms of the senses. There's a lot of depth here that needs detailing, and we will definitely cover these concepts in much more detail in future videos.
Let's see how modern science and the Shastras have similar ideas. Modern science suggests that the universe settings, like its fundamental forces and constant, must be just right or fine-tuned. If they are slightly different, the universe and life as we know it wouldn't exist. The settings not only affect the universe on a cosmic scale, they affect the creation of the Earth's biosphere and the processes that enable life. The Shastras describe previous failed attempts to build the universe with different settings. It was only when the underlying elements or tattvas were configured with a specific fine-tuned setup that our current stable life-supporting universe was created. The Shastras additionally state that an identical setup is used in every cosmic cycle. I began with the idea of a fine-tuned universe because you need to truly understand that concept. Once you do, you may see how closely it mirrors the Shastra's description of how the universe is created, and the correct foundational settings were finally achieved. What about storing the configuration in space prime? Is there something similar in modern science? There is an idea called the quantum memory matrix, QMM, which is a hypothesis. This suggests that space itself acts like a massive quantum hard drive for storing information. Modern science is considering the possibility that information can be stored in space-time without any physical material. The Shastras say that space prime holds the perfect plan or blueprint for everything: matter, life, consciousness, and our senses. The Shastras say that information can be recorded directly into this basic layer or tattva without needing physical matter. Find links to QMM in the description. We will discuss in later videos how the Shastras define matter, life, senses, and consciousness as separate but intertwined entities.
We have discussed Bhutakasha and its primary role of containing a description of the unchanging properties called Varnatmaka Shabda. The shlokas that form the basis for our discussion, a commentary in Sanskrit, and the translation are shown later in the video. In the next few videos, we will be discussing the other four Panchabhutas: Vayu, Agni, Jala, and Prithvi, Wind Prime, Fire Prime, Water Prime, and Earth Prime. I hope you found this discussion interesting. If you have any questions and clarifications, please raise it in the comments.
We'd love it if you shared this video with anyone you think would find this topic interesting. Please give it a like and share it using the link below. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you will know when our next video is uploaded. We don't post often, but that's because we put a lot of time doing research and discussions into the concepts in every video we make. And hey, help us out. The more likes and subscriptions we get, the more people YouTube will recommend this video to. Throughout this video, we kept promising to cover some subjects in future videos. At the end of this video, we show a list of what we have covered so far and a checklist of what we have promised to cover in future videos. Please have a look at it.
पंचभिः पंचभिर्ब्रह्म चतुर्भिः दशभिस्तथा एतत् चतुर्विंशतिकं गणं प्राधानिकं विदुः. एते देवाः कलाविष्णोः कालमायांशलिङ्गिनः नानात्वात् स्वक्रियानीशाः प्रोचुः प्राञ्जलयो विभुम्। इति तासां स्वशक्तीनाम् असतीनां समेत्य सः प्रसुप्तलोकतन्त्राणां निशाम्य गतिमीश्वरः। कालसंज्ञां ततो मायां बिभ्रत् शक्तिमुरुक्रमः त्रयोविंशतितत्त्वानां गणं युगपदाविशत्। सोऽनुप्रविष्टो भगवान् चेष्टारूपेण तं गणं भिन्नं संयोजयामास सुप्तं कर्म प्रबोधयन्। ततः तेन अनुविद्धेभ्यः युक्तेभ्यः अण्डम् अचेतनम् उत्थितं पुरुषो यस्मात् उदतिष्ठद् असौ विराट्।
भागवत पुराणे यथेदानीं तथाग्रे च पश्चादप्येतदीदृशं सर्गो नवविधस्तस्य प्रकृतो वैकृतश्च यः। महाभारते आदिपर्वणि एवमेतदनाद्यन्तं भूतसङ्घातकारकम् अनादिनिधनं लोके चक्रं सम्परिवर्तते। ऋग्वेदे सूर्याचन्द्रमसौ धाता यथा पूर्वमकल्पयत् दिवं च पृथ्वीं च अन्तरिक्षमथो स्वः। भागवत पुराणे अर्थाश्रयत्वं शब्दस्य द्रष्टुर्लिङ्गत्वमेव च तन्मात्रत्वं च नभसो लक्षणं कवयो विदुः। भागवत तात्पर्य निर्णयः शब्दो वर्णात्मको नित्यो ध्वनिराकाशसम्भवः आकाश एव सूक्ष्मस्तु ध्वनिरित्येव शब्द्यते स एव व्यज्यमानस्तु भवेत् कर्णैकगोचरः इति च। भागवत पुराणे भूतानां छिद्रदातृत्वं बहिरन्तर्दिगेव च प्राणीन्द्रियात्मधिष्ण्यत्वं नभसो वृत्तिलक्षणम्।